So this is the story about repairing the CT-6 hand drill. I got this a couple months ago. It was 20 years old, of course. I think they made them in 1999. And I don't think it had been used at all. It was perfect. But I'm a user. So I started using it for a couple of days, and I noticed it was getting, I don't know, it was turning weird. And so I sent an email to Luthier West, who runs a small business that repairs, restores old Bridge City legacy tools. And the first thing he came back with is, well, Dave, do you have the CT-6 reinforcing kit? I'll post a picture of that. I go, what? I sent him a picture of my tool. He said, no, you don't have it. And in fact, your handle's slightly bending. And sure enough, when I looked at it, it was. So I asked him about the reinforcing, and what happened, I guess, is the original handle. Well, let's see if we can somehow show you. The middle piece of this sandwich now was the original handle piece, and it wasn't that strong, and it did have a tendency to bend. The reason you don't notice it that often is because most CT-6s probably weren't used. They were collected. So I'm using the darn thing. So the reinforcing kit comes with the two outer pieces of this sandwich, as well as new screws that were longer. And you would think it would be a quick fix. It wasn't that quick a fix. So I got the kit from Luthier, and I'll put a link in the video to his site. And the first thing that freaked me out, there's instructions, and I think they were definitely written by John Economaki. And step one was to remove the existing screw. And he made it sound very difficult because it had been, they'd used thread locker on it. And he talked about heating it up, to 500 degrees to break the thread locker. Well, since it was a 20-year-old tool, I just took my Phillips and I had no problem, I guess, proving the thread locker is not forever. So once I'd removed the screws and taken it apart, I figured out how to, the instructions were pretty good about how to put this together. But there is one other real difficult point, which is, again, the main screw. If you tighten the main screw, and they talk about in the instructions, if you tighten the main screw too tight, you basically lock or close to lock the gears. If you have it too loose, then there's too much slop in the gear. So you've got to find the sweet spot between too tight and too loose. So he says do it dry without glue. Get the sweet spot, mark it, and then apply thread locker. Now, this was a little bit more difficult than it sounds because, again, we're used to simply tightening a screw all the way. So finally I got it to the sweet spot. I took the screw out, I applied a few drops of thread locker, put the screw back in, and then let it set for 24 hours. And then we're good. The handle feels much, much stronger than the original, and it works really well. But it certainly was a flaw in the tool, and a flaw that they addressed and fixed in sort of a Bridge City way. If you have the CT-6, if you found that the handle has always felt not so strong, contact Luthier because they do have kits. So that's my story about fixing my CT-6.